The basic build series is finally coming to an end, with this being the final video for it. So let's finish it up with another set of tips and tricks you can use, and then we will put it all together at the end. Today we will start off with using merge nodes to fade our branches in and out throughout the show. Here we have the branch containing the shadow of falling leaves that we put together in the last video. Recall that we had previously set a series of markers to determine where on the timeline we would like an event to happen. The frame number of our second marker is 381. In this example, let's set it so that the falling leaves fade out by frame 381, and another asset fades in. Select the merge node for our first branch, and then navigate to frame 381. To start the fade out, backtrack a little bit in the timeline. Here I'm going back 20 frames, which is a little less than 1 second. Using the inspector, set a keyframe by clicking on this diamond icon to set the value at 1. Return to frame 381, and reduce the blend value down to 0. This will automatically create a keyframe at that frame number, and this first video of the falling leaves has now faded completely out at this point. Let's fade something in at the same time, by creating a new branch for another video element. Bringing your next piece of media down onto the nodes pane. If we put this in the preview window, we can see nothing is playing. Using the inspector, increase the hold first frame value to 381. Since I pulled this off of YouTube, there is a bit of an intro to it. Make sure you are still on the frame you want this video to start at, and move over the trim slider to get rid of the intro. Just like we did in the previous video, let's get rid of the green screen by using the Delta Keyer node. This video is already the correct color, but I'll use it to mask a black background, just like we did with the fallen leaves for consistency. This probably isn't necessary in all honesty. Then of course, add a transform node, and connect everything together. Here I cheated a little bit by reusing the transform node from the falling leaves. Still, modifications will need to be made to the size and placement. This would be better if the bats appeared right at the start of frame 381, so let's adjust the hold first frame property to a lesser value. Head back to frame 361, and select the new merge node for the branch we just created. Set the blend value for this node to 0 in the inspector, and keyframe this by clicking on the diamond. Return to frame 381, and increase the value back to 1. This will automatically create a keyframe. If we review this, the leaves fade out right at the same moment the flying bats will appear. Let's add another element using the same process that we just did. This time, we'll just add an a.png image that already has the background removed. Just like before, we will use those markers to guide us on where our fade-ins and outs should occur for each asset. Let's finish out this display by rapid firing off some miscellaneous items that I couldn't logically find a place to bring up over the course of this series. On occasion, masking an element with another piece of media may not give you the result that you want. When that happens, you can try using other channels to see if that gives you the desired effect. Select the node that you are masking, and open the inspector, then the Settings tab. Change the channel from alpha to luminance, and make adjustments if needed using the luminance slider. This provided a cleaner image than what it previously had. The point here is, don't be afraid to experiment with new settings to see what they do. You can always undo anything you try out. Having markers on your timeline can help you animate objects in your show, and I liberally use them in anything I build. Remember that we are using markers to mark the start and end of an event. Let's say we are animating this with shadow to fly across the screen. Using the starting marker as a reference, keyframe the position using the inspector. Move to the ending marker frame in your timeline, and place it into the desired ending position. Be sure to check that the positioning in the middle of the animation is correct. If it's not, make any necessary adjustments. One quick way you can fix this is by clicking and dragging over the two end points in the preview pane. Then move them both downward at the same time by using the arrow keys on your keyboard. This will keep you from having to go back and forth between your start and end keyframes to fix the animation. One additional note on animation. There may be times you have to add multiple keyframes to the transform node of your branch, in order to keep the element centered onto your display. You'll encounter this quite a bit when displaying a video effect that moves across the screen. Work your way through it and set a keyframe throughout the timeline to keep the main elements centered under canvas. Once you've completed all of your individual scenes, it's time to move on to putting together the final product. Just like we've done before. Let's import our latest scene and add it to the final timeline. Bring it over a bit if you would like to use a built-in transition. We could render this straight out if we wanted and call it a day. But the final timeline is also a good opportunity to look for those last-minute improvements that could be made to the show. For example, at this moment when the bats fly upward, we could have put in additional audio of bats squeaking. The final timeline gives us the chance to fix that. All we need to do is add the additional audio to another audio track underneath our first track, and then get it aligned with the video. Of course, we would want the audio to fade out around the same time as the video element. For that, we can just click on this control in the corner of the audio, and drag it over as far as we need to get it to fade out. This audio is also too loud, compared to the main track, so we should reduce the volume so the bats don't overpower the song.
Such a thrill to feel the chill run straight down through your spine. Our favorite night of all the year, we can't believe.
This will take some additional tuning to get right, but I hope you get the idea. The final timeline gives you that last shot at adding additional audio, effects, video clips, color correction, and so much more that will let you take your show to the next level. You can play with and experiment on this timeline, because the completed scenes will remain untouched. And it's easy to re-import those if something goes really wrong. When you're happy with your final timeline, render it out into one complete video. This is the show that you will be displaying to your neighborhood through your projector. You'd want to test your show, of course, before you display it for your neighborhood, and make any adjustments if needed. Sometimes a scene just doesn't look great on the house and needs to be redone. That's okay, you can just rework only that scene, re-render it out, and it will already be part of your final timeline. This has been a long road to get to this point, and if you made it this far, I congratulate you on sticking with it. I hope you're able to get your show up and going for this holiday season and really wow your neighbors with what you've built. Even though this is the end of the basic build series, there is a lot more that we can cover over the next year that fall into the advanced side of things. In the interim, if you have any questions, you can always join the Resolved Home Projections Facebook group to get further guidance from others, including myself. Thanks for sticking with me on this, and I wish you the best.